If everything goes according to plan, then this video is going to be uploaded on the morning of Christmas Day. So, Merry Christmas to y'all. It's December 25th at the time of this video's publication. At the time of this video's audio recording, though, it's December 21st, so some of the numbers, some of the things you're looking at on the screen may be outdated, but that is okay. Kinda have to do what I gotta do in order to prepare for holiday trips, right? But either way, with the NHL being in a roster freeze for the holiday season, it provides us with some good opportunities to breathe a little bit, and to just sit back, relax, and acknowledge all the trade rumors that had popped up over the past few weeks. Today what we're doing is going over to an article published on Sportsnet by Luke Fox. This is the Quick Shifts article, How a Hall of Famer Saved Luke Schenn's Career. The link will be in the description if you want to go ahead and read this, and of course, because it talks about Luke Schenn in the title, you can infer that a lot of the content in this opening paragraph is about Luke Schenn. However, this is a sort of 32 Thoughts-like piece. Quick Shifts is Luke Fox's own list-formatted article that has a whole bunch of different things around the NHL, sort of like 32 Thoughts, but not really. Either way, if you scroll down into this article, it talks a lot about Toronto Maple Leafs stuff. Of course, it's written by Luke Fox. And if you scroll down onto the fifth thought of the article, it goes out there and says this. To be sure, the Toronto Maple Leafs' top priority is defense help, particularly on the right side. Reading between the lines of comments made by Coach Sheldon Keefe and GM Brad Treliving last week, Toronto would also like to upgrade its center depth. Max Domi has filled in admirably as a third-line pivot, but his trust defensively is iffy. The sense is the Leafs would prefer a pure pivot and keep Domi as a middle six utility player. 3 rental names to keep in mind. Anaheim's Adam Henrique, Montreal's Sean Monahan, and the Seattle Kraken's Alexander Wennberg. The Ducks and Kraken would A. need to declare themselves sellers, and B. retain salary for a hypothetical trade to work. So, this is our idea. We're talking about 3 guys, well, mostly one, not gonna lie, that the Toronto Maple Leafs could go out there and target, assuming their need and desire for a center is legit. Max Domi, if you go over to him and his overall profile, he's been pretty okay this season. I don't want to say he's been, amazing. He's definitely been better as of late for the Toronto Maple Leafs. At the time of recording this audio, he's got 17 points in 29 games played, on pace for around 48 points on the year, which is kind of in line with the point production he has had in the past, albeit with a lower points per game number. But it should be noted that his playmaking edge has definitely taken a step up. He's scored a lot fewer goals this season so far than he's used to, but he's getting a lot more of assists in the process. Domi, being the middle six, sort of grab bag every situations type of utility player, is a more projectable kind of role for him, rather than being a pure third-line center that can win draws, be defensively responsible, and do all the things. He's got such a dynamic edge to his game that makes it a little bit difficult to lock him down in that role. So, if you're going to any of these 3 guys, from Wennberg to Henrique to Monahan, it is interesting when you try to take a look at who would be the most likely or the most inevitable trade target out of these 3. Now, the title and thumbnail of this video go out there and say a pretty specific idea that makes a lot more sense when you read into it more, but Sean Monahan of the Montreal Canadiens might just be the guy to get this done. And, based off of these 3 names, he seems like the one that would probably be the most likely. Monahan is 29 years old, 6'1", 201, signed to the end of 2024, making $1.985 million a year, and at the time of recording this audio, the guy has 19 points in 31 games played. Sure, it's not the 82-point season he had in 2018-19, but he is on pace for around 50 points, as a guy playing in sort of an all-situations kind of role too. They're trying him out on the wing, he's playing behind Suzuki, he's playing behind other names on the Canadiens' lines. It's kind of interesting how they're rotating everybody else around, especially with the departure of Kirby Dach, because that guy's injured. But having Jake Evans as a center in the top 6 with Monahan on his wing is an interesting choice. But of course, Monahan has value as a center as well. He's been accustomed to that position his entire playing career, pretty much. He can play on the power play, he can win draws, he can do a lot of things nowadays compared to his recent ending days with the Calgary Flames. Sure, he had his heyday back in the 2018-19 season, whatever, but ever since falling out with the Calgary Flames system, getting traded over to Montreal getting paid a first pretty much to take Monahan on, it has been a pretty good upward trajectory for Monahan and his career. This is why, if we go over to an article published on Montreal Hockey Now by... Okay, it just says it's written by Montreal Hockey Now, published on December 18th. Maple Leafs could be interested in a trade for Canadiens forward. It goes out there and cites the same Luke Fox article, wherein Wennberg, Henrique, and Monahan are brought up. Take a look at the analysis done here on Montreal Hockey Now. According to Sportsnet's Luke Fox, Monahan may be one of the players the Leafs will pursue. Fox argues that Toronto's most pressing issue is their questionable defensive group, but they would also like to upgrade its strength down the middle due to Max Domi's low defensive awareness. Now this is where the idea of other names comes in. While the Anaheim Ducks and the Seattle Kraken have players available, both Wennberg and Henrique carry cap hits that would force some financial gymnastics from the Maple Leafs. Wennberg is making $4.5 million, Henrique is making $5.825. As it stands, Toronto only has a little over $600,000 in space. Monahan, on the other hand, is currently signed to a very reasonable one-year contract that carries an AAV of $1.95 million, making a potential trade with a cap-strapped team much more feasible. Essentially, the conclusion here is Monahan is so much cheaper than both Wennberg and Henrique that if a trade for any center depth were to transpire, Monahan would be the inevitable option, at least if you were to take from these three names in isolation. That, of course, is not including anybody else that's not mentioned here, but when it comes to Sean Monahan, you could even debate that point production-wise, he could be seen as the most valuable out of these three. If you go over to Alexander Wennberg and look at his point production playing for the Seattle Kraken this season, I mean, the Kraken as a whole haven't been great, but Wennberg's at 13 points in 34 games played, on pace for fewer points than Sean Monahan is. He's on pace for around 32. Monahan, as we had said, on pace for around 50. Then you look at Adam Henrique. The Ducks have been a lot better than the Seattle Kraken have been, but Henrique's on pace for around 49 points himself, 18 points in 30 games on the year. Definitely not bad. But still, he's making a lot more money, and the point production is around the same as Monahan. Out of these three guys, Sean Monahan is the best name, because he is the cheapest, he is the most productive, and there is a versatility there where, I mean, he can play on the wing, but if you're bringing him on to put Domi on the wing, you probably want to have Monahan at center, just having that star power attached to it, you know? Max Domi, Tyler Bertuzzi, Sean Monahan. If this was like 2015, this team would have been insane. And then, of course, you have all the extra names tossed out on D, the other Calgary Flames of yesteryear, the TJ Brodies, the Mark Giordanos, if you wanted to talk about other guys that could get targeted like Chris Tanev, for example. That could be a Calgary reunion for the ages in Toronto. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, what do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs send over to Montreal to get this trade to work? You gotta remember, the cap space needs to work out. While Monahan is the cheapest of these three names, he still is a little bit more expensive than what the Maple Leafs have cap-wise. So, what name do you expect Montreal and Kent Hughes to target if you want to see this trade go through? If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, what do you want to see get sent over in order to make this trade work? Would you rather go after a defenseman first? If you assume you trade for a defenseman, is Monahan or another center next up on the list? Do you even think that Luke Fox and his point is valid here? Do you think that Max Domi should be moved off of that center position and rather use him instead elsewhere in the middle six of your lineup? If it is a center that you need, is Monahan the guy you want to go for, or are you targeting somebody else? Maybe, I don't know, the Wennberg or the Henrique that we had talked about, or is there any other names that were not mentioned in the article that you think would be worth your time instead? Sean Monahan to the Toronto Maple Leafs makes a lot of sense when you think about these names in particular, but of course, a lot of other things need to work out in order for these trade talks to manifest. And also, would you even consider seeing a trade between the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs? Who knows? The Canadiens are not really too competitive this year, so maybe they'll put all bad blood aside and just try to help out another team that's right there if it means they're able to get some prospects and picks in the process. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Sean Monahan and whether or not you think it's a realistic idea of him getting sent over to Toronto. Leafs fans, Habs fans, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Merry Christmas again, because it is December 25th, and bye.